Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farm the Podcast. This is your host, Jace D. Young, and today's topic and discussion is this: you're responsible for you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about responsibility, and this came up from one of our community boardroom conversations on this morning's call. So we have those once a week. On that call, we'll have anywhere from 30 to 60 of our members live on the call, and on that call, we go over any challenges across personal life, across business, numbers, banking, taxes, estate planning, working with family. Like, we cover everything on those calls, and the calls are extremely valuable. Just because the member that's bringing an issue or a problem to the call, they're not just getting feedback from me, but they're getting feedback from all of the other members from all over the country that have actually lived and been through what this person is going through, so that we can help and assist them in solving the problem much quicker, rather than, just leaving it out there to hang for the next decade, which is unfortunately what happens majority of the time. But today we're going to talk a little bit about responsibility. So inside of today's conversation with this individual, this guy moved back to the farm operation, took his family back there with him, and he's been working next to his brother for the past 20 years. Now, unfortunately, their father passed away about 20 years ago, and they were handed 5,000 to 6,000 acres of farm ground, and then asked to work, basically forced into a partnership and working together and things like that. Now, the problem is, and what this member has run into is what a lot of people run into, is that when you're working with family on the operation, you typically, there's no assigned role, right? But you kind of have a general idea of what the other person is doing. And so, like in this situation here, one of our members, the member that we were going through this with on the call, was the guy that really handled a lot of the day-to-day operation type stuff. And the brother was the one who handled a lot of the financial stuff. Now, here's the problem with this, is when we blindly trust our family to have our backs. Okay, now some of you guys have been working with your family and inside of the family operation for a lot of years. And if it's worked out great for you, great, that's awesome. But I'm going to tell you, you are in the very few rare ideas of when that happens. It does not happen very often at all, guys. It just, honestly, it does not happen. You are in a very rare space if you actually get along with your family and you guys work well together. The numbers are clear. You guys have designated roles. Like, that is not what a majority of family operations operate with. Okay. A majority of them is, again, they have this idea of what the other person does. And there's kind of these unspoken roles that people are supposed to do. And all of a sudden, you're just supposed to blindly trust that the other individual is doing what they're supposed to do. And this makes it really difficult, because let's assume you're not working with family. Let's assume you have a business partner or whatever. If you have a business partner, you are going to establish clear roles and responsibilities. And guess what? If that business partner is not carrying their end of the deal, then you're going to get really freaking pissed off really fast, especially if they're hiding money, if they're not disclosing all the facts, if they're not sharing what the bills actually are, if they're not sharing what the financial position is or anything like that. And you are going to ultimately end that relationship, and you're not going to feel bad about it at all. Well, you might in the beginning, but long term, you won't really care. When it comes with family, though, and that situation I'm talking about right there, hiding financials, not disclosing information, not sharing what you actually should be sharing with your family, who are AKA your business partners, this is happening across hundreds, if not thousands, of family farms inside of this country, and nobody has the guts to say anything. So with this individual today, one of our members inside of that call, we really talked about the steps to approach the conversation, the steps to start separating yourself from the operation. Because the reality is, we already know things aren't good. Okay, we already know things are going downhill very, very, very quickly for this operation. And the thing is this member feels like he's been taken advantage of, and the numbers prove it. The numbers prove it. The lifestyle also proves it. So, for example, if you're working with a family member and you have everybody involved in the farm operation, but one of those families, say it's your brother or your uncle or whatever, if they're driving around in brand new vehicles every single year and living in a new home and everything, but you guys work in the same operation, you guys have a fair share to the equal amount of the profits of that operation, but for some reason you're sitting over here and you can't afford what they're buying right now, there's something wrong with that situation. And something is not being fully disclosed. And I'm going to get kind of lit up about this because, one, this happened in my own family operation, but then two, with all the members that we have coming to Legacy Farmer, it seems to be happening more and more, and it just triggers the hell out of me. Because here's the deal. This member sacrificed 20 years of his life to go back and work on the family operation. He also took his wife and kids back there with him as well. So not only has he been drugged through the mud by his business partner, aka brother, financially, and lied to, or had really important details kept from him, he's also had to drag his entire family through it as well. Like, guys, this is a problem. This is an absolute problem. And this is happening more and more and more and more. Okay, now working with family is great until it's not. Now, the thing is that this member has put up with this for 20 years because he doesn't, it's very difficult. It is extremely difficult. And some of you that are in this situation, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. It's extremely difficult to go and have those types of conversations with your brother or sister or aunt or uncle or mom or dad. It's very difficult to have business conversations and confront them on business issues when at the same time they're also family. And the problem is that this keeps a lot of people from ever saying anything. They will go decades. This member went 2 decades without ever opening his mouth or saying a word because of that uncomfortability that comes with having that conversation. Then he also has his mom trying to get him not to say anything as well, and just say, it's the same old shit. Like, oh, it'll get better next year. It'll be better, 2 years, 3 years from now. Just, hang in there. No. We're not doing that anymore. We're going to take a stand for what is right. I want to know what the facts are, and I want to know what the details are, because this isn't a game. This is my life. This is my family's life. I got my wife and my kids here as well. We've been here. We've sacrificed our lives to come back to this family operation. And now all of a sudden, all the details aren't getting disclosed. And it's pretty apparent that one of us is living a pretty lavish lifestyle while the other one is just trying to get by. Guys, oh man, this frustrates the hell out of me because it happens so often. And people avoid that conversation because one, their parent, like in this situation, this member's mom is trying to get him to not say anything. Well, that's because your parents, guys, they want everybody together for Thanksgiving dinner. Like, let's be honest. They want the whole family there for Thanksgiving and Christmas. That is what this member's mom is thinking about. She wants her family happy. And no parent wants their kids to argue. But again, though, if you don't say anything and the operation continues to operate this way and you don't know what the numbers are, and all of a sudden one day the time is up, the bridge is run out, and all of a sudden you're going over a cliff and filing bankruptcy because of the facts that were not disclosed earlier in time that should have been, so that you can make some different decisions inside of the operation. And so many of you right now, you are blindly trusting. You're blindly trusting your parents or your uncle or your brother or whoever you're in business with inside of the family operation. Whoever's running the finances, you're trusting them to take care of it. I'm telling you, that's a recipe for disaster. That is a recipe not only for financial disaster, but a family disaster. You want proof? Just go, talk to my dad about Young Cattle Company 15 years ago. Talk to him about the resentment that came from him running our feed yard for 30 years of his life and trusting my granddad and other people inside of the office to run the day-to-day finances of the operation. And then all of a sudden finding out one day that, hey, we're broke and sorry, Kevin, you no longer have a job. And you have to go tell your 15 team members that have been with you for more than a decade that they don't have a job anymore. That's what it will turn into if you do not start taking a stand and responsibility for yourself to learn the numbers, to pay attention to what is going on. And at the end of the day, I did that documentary, the Saving the American Farmer documentary. If some of you guys haven't seen it, just go to our website, legacyfarmer.org/Saving the American Farmer, and you can watch it. But inside of that, the interviewer interviewed my parents and he asked them, what's one thing you wish you would have done differently? And my dad blatantly says on there, I wish I would have asked more questions and paid attention to the numbers. Because he was just blindly trusting. And this is how a majority of us are operating today. I get it, it's with family. But the thing is there's got to be a fine line between family conversations and business conversations. And if you're in business with your family, when it's time to talk business, it's time to talk business. I do not care about how you feel about these things. I want to know what the facts are because my family's livelihood depends on what the financial facts are of this operation. This is what has to happen. And for some of you, it's going to be easier for you just to separate off completely from the family operation and go build your own thing, which I am 100% for. I am 100% for because it's so much nicer when you have your own game rolling. You have your own operation, your own business, your own source of income to where you no longer have to deal with the family conversations. You no longer have to worry about, oh, so-and-so used the tractor for this amount of time. How do we split these bills? He's taking more of the money at the end of the year. We're doing the same thing, but he's getting more of the profit. What's going on here? He's buying ground, all this crap, right? All this stuff that comes into it. And you feel like it's inevitable that one of you will feel like you're doing more work than the other, and vice versa. One of you will feel like you're getting the short end of the stick compared to the other. That's why with all the members in Legacy Farmer, we're 100% for separating yourself from the family operation. If you do not want to collide with them, like this member, he wants to collide with them. He wants to figure out clear rules, clear guidelines on how that business is to be run. So we're going to work with him on that, and it can be done, but it's going to be painful. There's going to have to be some crucial conversations that are happening, and they're going to be very uncomfortable. Just plain and simple. They're going to be really uncomfortable. Or you can decide, hey, you know what? This really isn't worth it. This really isn't worth it. It's better for me to actually go build my own thing and separate myself from the family. And to be honest, guys, for a majority of you, that is going to save your relationship with your family. That is going to save your relationship with your family. My dad and my granddad always had a very tough relationship when the feed yard was up and running. My dad and my brother had a very tough relationship up when the feed yard was running. That's because working with family, guys, it's tough. Like, we don't need to sugarcoat it. It's really difficult. And especially when you get family involved with money, that's a recipe for disaster once again. And the thing is after the feed yard closed down, my granddad and my dad's relationship actually drastically improved over the next 5 to 7 years before he passed away, because there wasn't that tension there anymore. Same with my dad and my brother. Same with me and my dad. My viewpoint on him completely changed once the feed yard went under, because I saw a drastic change in him, because there wasn't the stress and the tension and everything there anymore. It was the best thing. Guys, it was a really challenging time for our family for sure. Best thing that happened to us though. Best thing that happened. Best thing for my parents and their marriage. Best thing for, my relationship with my dad and his relationship with his dad and my brother and just all around. It's so much better when the business stuff is separated, because out of a majority of the tension in life comes from business situations or money situations. And when you mix those with family, oh boy, it really is a recipe for disaster. Now, again, some of you guys, you've solved this equation. Some of you have a great relationship working with your brother or your dad or whatever. You have clear guidelines. Guys, that's great. Good for you. I'm speaking to 95% of ag business owners out there that are in this position where it's not a good situation. And you have two choices from there, guys. You have you have three choices. You could sit and do nothing and wait for the ball to drop. Sit and do nothing, wait for the ball to drop. And that's what my dad did. My dad ended up with nothing. I know several other people in this country that they've done the exact same thing. So sit and do nothing, wait for the ball to drop. And then all of a sudden you're going to find out, holy crap, I've been hidden. There's financials that have been hidden from me for decades now. And I don't have a pot to piss in, pretty much, right? Step two, or option two, is you suck it up and you start having the conversation with them, and you start taking action. You start separating things out. You demand, not ask, you demand that they start having these conversations with you so that you can get things separated out and clearly define the roles and responsibilities of what information is going to be shared. When are we having financial meetings? How are we going to run this business and keep things separate? How are we going to know and track profitability and know without a doubt who deserves what? And who's responsible for what bills and what income and what grain and what cattle? Like, all these things have to be ironed out. This whole idea of just mixing everything together and, it's a father-son operation and there's millions of dollars just being thrown around. Guys, I'm going to tell you, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that these family farms are losing every single year because of not having clear guidelines there. I call it the gray area. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars lost in that gray area. When so-and-so is picking up this bill and, I don't have to rent the tractor because I don't have to pay rent for the tractor because it's my dad's. And then you feel like they have a thumb on you. Like, there's all these different things that come up with that. Okay. So that's option two, is you can go in and you can have those conversations and sit in that discomfort and force them to set some clear rules and guidelines. Now, the problem with that is there's another party in that conversation, right? The person that you're working with, whether it's your brother or your dad or whoever. And the thing is they're not going to want to change. You want to change, but they don't want to change, which means and leads us to option number three. You recognize that they do not want to change, and you make a decision. Okay, great. I'm not going to spend the next 5 to 10 years trying to get them to change. I'm already ready to go now. So I'm going to separate myself from the family operation. I'm going to take what's mine and I'm going to go build my own thing. Guys, option number three is the best. Option number three, a majority of the time, is going to be the best option. And it's going to be tough. Even that one is tough because you still got to separate things out. You got to figure out what's yours, and you got to start operating under your own business. You got to start paying all the bills and paying attention to the numbers. You got to learn how to become a legit ag business owner. And there's a lot of things that go into that. It's not just all day-to-day operations. On the financing side, the taxes side, the entity structure side, the payroll side, all of those things play into becoming your own business owner. But guess what? At the end of the day, you're responsible for you. This is what's tough, guys. And the reason I named the episode this is because at the end of the day, when the ball drops for your family, I'll use my parents as an example. When the ball dropped in my family, my dad, he didn't deserve what happened to him. But at the end of the day, guess which one of his brothers or sisters or even his dad showed up to back him up? None of them. None of them. Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for you. At the end of the day, you are responsible for watching out for you. Because even in the darkest hour, your family will turn their back on you. And it's not because they want to, it's because we're put into these positions where we have to. At the end of the day, I still have to protect my wife and my kids. I mean, obviously, if I'm in the position, I want to protect my other family if I'm working with them. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, I'm responsible for my wife and my 4 little girls. Like, that's it. And again, that's what we want to avoid, because that's what happened to my family. That's what happened to my dad. And he spent years trying to rebuild those relationships. And honestly, immediately after the feed yard closed down, nobody wanted to talk to anybody anyway. I mean, this was a family of 5. This is 5 different families. This is my granddad, his 5 kids, and then all their kids, all involved in the operation. So when this thing separated and this thing broke, it was brutal. It was ugly. And I didn't see some of those family members for more than 10 years after that. Okay, and it takes that much time for those wounds to heal. And what we're doing with this member is trying to avoid all of that pain and that discomfort. And at the same time, if he doesn't do anything, if we just let this thing ride, he's inevitably going to face that. So taking some action, even though it's going to be uncomfortable, is ultimately going to get him to the end result that he wants much, much faster. So a lot of you listening to this right now, you're in the same position, or at least you can resonate with the position, or maybe you know somebody in the position. I'm just telling you, choose option 2 or choose option 3. Option 1, you're destined for failure. Option 2, failure is still there. It's just a little bit less likely if the other party is willing to play ball. Option 3 means you're taking control of your life and you're taking full responsibility of yourself and your family and what your future holds. That's where we go. That's where a majority of the members inside of Legacy Farmer are going, because that's the route where we don't need a damn thing from anybody else. And that is, I'm just telling you guys, that is the route that is going to bring you the most happiness going forward in your life. You are responsible for you. So my friends, hope you found this episode valuable. I hope it brought some enlightenment into your world. I hope you make some changes because of it. And yeah, that's all we got for this episode. So I will catch you on the next one.